Hey guys, Jeff here, Dice Setters. So I was in Las Vegas last weekend. We went to Sam's Town briefly. I happened to see their table, and they are not having the plastic barriers there. So I thought, this would be the time to sit there and try. So only one at the table. I did bare minimum, but enough to keep me going. And I did sit there and hit a 7, but I have not made my point yet. So I hit a 3 first, then a 7. So then I was like, frustrated, but okay, we'll try it again. I set $5 on all tall small, and I ended up hitting my small. I was only one away from the tall, which was midnight. Maybe 10 rolls. I still could not get midnight. But the positive side, $200. In the positive, now like I said, this was playing minimal. I haven't played that table in probably 2 years, so it was fantastic. It was cool that I was still able to do everything I did, that many years ago, and not just walking up. So one oops, but I did sit there and I did get my small, and I did walk away with $200. One thing I noticed, I went to Ellis Island as well. One thing I noticed, and a lot of people don't talk about it. You're like, you might be new to the channel, you might not know, what is a dice setter? Does that mean I can control the dice? No. If I could control the dice, I'd still be in Vegas. I cannot control the dice. But I can limit the amount of 7s that comes up, or I can increase the amount of 7s that come up. Basically because I'm holding the dice, and I know with certain rotations, it has more possibilities of either hitting a 7 or missing a 7. And there are some numbers with your dice set they're going to hit more often. But no, we cannot control the dice. But definitely we can do better than the average person. When you see a person that's dice setting, and if you're a dice setter or not, the biggest thing is that the people that sit on the end, whichever end you're at. The rule that the casino uses is that you have your bet here on the pass line, you have your odds, a finger, a thumb, must be able to be placed in between it. And you're like, well, why is that? Well, because when the dice are thrown from that side of the table and they sit there and land, they want to make sure that the dice won't be wedged. And you're like, oh, what do you mean by wedged? I mean like that. Because then they wouldn't know how to count that. How would you call that? Is it a 2? Is it a 6? But if you can get your thumb in between it, you shouldn't have any problem with the dice landing in between it. The bad thing is that if you are a dice setter and you're from that end throwing here, the only spot I see that I would aim for would be right here and right there. I never sit there, I won't say I never. I generally never put odds behind. It's just, I just don't play that way. I know there's a lot of people that do. So if you are playing this way, try scooting, as much over as you can, so that the person that is dice setting from there has a bigger spot. It's something that you don't think about when you're sitting there playing the game, but it's something that we should all be conscious about, especially those that like to sit on the end. Because you've got to leave a spot open, and if you don't, it makes it really, really hard. That's the one thing I noticed. Another thing that most people don't talk about is there a time not to play craps? Is there a time not to go visit the casino? And I would sit there and say, yes, there are times that you should not be playing craps. There are times that, something happened and got me upset. Most of the time it's because of the pit boss, not the places I go regularly, but, they just get mad. I didn't do anything. It's kind of like going through security at the airport. We've all done it 1,000 times. You think that we would do it correctly, spot on. But you'll forget something, and then you'll be yelled at. You take it because you want to go to your final destination. You don't want to say anything because you don't want to be kicked off the plane. But you have to sit there and go through that every single time. That's kind of like the dealers. There are some casinos that they will sit there and, hey, buddy, next time, let's hit the back wall, right? It all depends upon what that does to you. Does it make you mad? Is it going to make you off your game? The next throw, are you going to 7 out? Yeah, probably, because now you're thinking about what the dealer sat there and said to you. So there are some times that you should not go to the casino. And I'm just saying some things that I should say about it. First off, set your limits. You sit there and say, well, you guys are at the casino almost every weekend. Probably. But I do set my limits. And my limits are, once my cash runs out, and I do have a certain amount of cash, sometimes I have more cash than than I should have, so I leave it at home. But once my cash runs out, that's it. Of course, there's other rules I have when you win, but once the cash runs out, that's it. There are a couple of times, and my wife knows that rule too, there are a couple of times that I will not be able to stop at the bank because I had no cash. And then she'll see me going to the ATM, hey, is everything okay? Because she knows that's one of my rules. I don't go to the ATM. But I sit there and tell her, no, I didn't have time to go to the bank, so I'm trying to get out some money for today, and tomorrow I'll make the same thing. That way that my card doesn't get shut off. Things like that. Set a limit. You've got to set a limit. And, your monthly budget comes first. Your home, your car, stuff like that. Don't be spending the grocery monies at the casino. Or don't sit there and say, I only have $50 and it's supposed to last me for 30 days. Maybe I should go play that at the casino. No, probably not. But definitely set your limits, know your limits, and stick to your limits. Another thing is that you shouldn't go to the casino when you're not mentally prepared. And when I mean that, maybe something happened at work, or maybe something happened in life. You might have lost somebody you loved. That would not be the time to go to the casino. You can wait. You can wait, a week, month, year, whatever. But at the time of grieving, or the time that your mind is not 100%, it's not a good time to go to the casino. Another thing, don't sit there and play a game you don't know. And I think a lot of people walk up to the craps table thinking that they can figure it out if they sit there long enough. And before you know it, they're putting money where they shouldn't. And they end up losing, and they go, well, I hate that game. I mean, you just didn't understand it. That's why. Another time you shouldn't go to the casino is when you're broke. Like I said before. Don't go to the casino when you're broke. You won't walk into $1 million. It's not going to happen. Another time you should maybe cut back or maybe stop is if you're under the influence. Everyone knows their limits. And, I was at Ellis Island, and there were two guys, and I think they were from, I don't remember, I think Arkansas maybe, I'm not for sure. But they had to use the table rail or they were going to fall down. To the point that they were, whoa, like that. That's the time that you should call it quits. So, I wouldn't sit there and say don't ever play under the influence, but definitely, know where your limit is, because once they get enough alcohol in you, you're going to lose all your money. Another thing that should keep you away from the craps table is when the craps table or the casino interferes with life obligations. There are more important things than playing craps, like family. Your family needs you. That would be a time to not go, at the casino. And then the last one is if you've developed a gambling addiction. And that's not what most people want to hear on a gambling video, a casino video. But if you do have a problem, I would suggest getting help. I play for the fun of it. It's even fun when you're winning. It's fun, kinda, when you're losing. But you all learn from the experiences of winning and losing. But when you start doing too much, not knowing your limits, that's when it becomes a problem. And so I say that, and I try to sit there and make it a point that, I give you these stories, I show you how to win, but there's going to be times you're going to lose. And I don't want you to be that person that lost their house, lost their husband, their wife, or whatever it might be. It's fun at the right time. It's fun when you can afford it. So make sure you have all those checks and balances in place before you sit there and go to the casino. But once you go to the casino, definitely make sure that you got your cash in your pocket. You're not going to go to the ATM machine. That way you keep everything in place. You don't sit there and overspend, because there's nothing worse than leaving the casino and you spent too much and you thought, hey, I have like an extra 500 in the bank account. Maybe that might, yeah, that probably won't. It just wasn't your weekend. So set your limits. Know how much you can spend. Don't go gambling when you're very, very intoxicated. Have fun. That's the biggest thing, is having fun. If it's not fun, you shouldn't be gambling. That's just the way it is. Another thing, I was sitting there, you might have seen these dice that are stacked here. There are some dice from many casinos. There are some dice I sat there and bought on eBay. And there's some dice I actually bought at the casino. But most of these dice actually came from me rolling. I sit there and spend money on dice. They come in these little cute little 5 dice holders. And they are expensive. They are expensive for the right dice. But the thing is, how do you know when to give up your dice for new ones? I sat there and compared the new one to the old one. Just by running your finger across just the edge, I couldn't tell the difference. It wasn't until you put your finger on the point. That's when you know the difference. So if you're ever at the casino and you want to know if you're playing with new dice or old dice, it's how sharp these corners are. Because the corners are what wear. Eventually the corners will wear down and then the edge will finally wear down. But the corners, every tumble takes a little bit off. So if you want to know if they replace the dice every day, just grab a hold of the corners and push. And if it's painful, then yeah, those are new dice. If it's not painful, then you might ask your casino, hey, when's the last time you changed your dice? You say, well, how is that important? When you're dice setting, you want each and every edge to be the same flatness. But after rolling it over and over again, you're going to start to curve these. So say like you threw the 6 and it stopped, and you had the 2 come up and it's still rolling, and then finally it tips over to 7. If it was slowly going over, if it was a new dice, it probably would have stopped there and it wouldn't have had a 7. So when your throw becomes worse and worse over time, that's probably an indication to change out your dice. And sometimes we just don't think about things like that. You're like, man, my throw used to be spot on. Now it's not. Have you changed your dice? Just saying. Like, share, subscribe. I know this one wasn't as fun as all the other ones, but it's a subject that that needs to be talked about. And if you are having a problem, seek help. You can even sit there and say, just email me. I'll get you all the help you can possibly ever imagine. I'll get you to the people that you need to see. But definitely, this is a fun game. But there's certain stipulations that we have to control, or else it becomes a game that ends up costing money, costing family, costing friends, and you don't want to do that. Like, share, subscribe. If you didn't like this video, I have, 40, 50, I don't know how many videos I have, but try a different one. And definitely, if you're not a subscriber, I please ask you to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. You're like, what difference does that make? At 1,000, I can go live. And I go to Vegas all the time, and there's certain times I want to turn and record and show you guys what I'm seeing. There's times I can't because I like in a casino or whatever, but there are some times that what's happening right now is pretty important, and I would like to sit there and do that. It might be for a minute, it might be for 20 minutes, I don't know. But to do that. Anyways, have a good one, and I will be in Vegas next weekend. I'll be at Ellis Island. If you want to sit there and join me for a roll, or if you want to maybe meet at Casino Quest, I'm up for it. Just sit there and email me. It's going to be dicesetters@gmail.com. Have a good one, guys.